Welcome back to the GCN Racing News Show. This week, Slovenians dominate at the two biggest stage races so far, Paris-Nice and Tirreno-Adriatico. I'll be taking a look back at the last 7 days of brilliant racing at those two races, as well as the Ronde van Drenthe. Plus, Mathieu van der Poel looks like he'll be back for Flanders, and Egan Bernal is back on his bike. This week in the world of racing, we learnt that Jonas Vingegaard isn't particularly concerned with the minor details of bike racing.
You're closer and closer to the blue jersey.
Which jersey is the blue one?
The leader jersey.
Ah, okay.
I love that interview. We also learnt this week that even if Brandon McNulty makes it abundantly clear that he's about to go on the attack, there's not much that anybody else can do about it. That was McNulty winning stage 5 of Paris-Nice, having almost pulled out of the race after a below-par performance in the time trial the previous day. A time trial that was won by Wout van Aert. After an opening day that Jumbo-Visma will never forget, they couldn't quite get themselves across the line first in the days that followed. Van Aert was no match for Jakobsen's acceleration to the line from the group that made it through the crosswinds on stage 2, and he was outgunned by both Mads Pedersen and Brian Coquard the following day. He more than made up for that in the time trial though, in what was another 1-2-3 for Jumbo-Visma. Roglic finished second, 2 seconds behind his teammate, with Dennis a further 4 seconds behind in third. And it left a lot of us wondering whether Van Aert might usurp Roglic and take the lead of the race all the way to the Nice. But we got our answer the following day. Van Aert took things slightly easier, with Rowan Dennis the last teammate alongside Roglic at the end of the stage, which was won by McNulty. Stage 6 saw Mathieu Bourgadeau of Total Energies take a surprise victory, the first of his career, just about holding off a small group of favourites behind him. But it was the following day that we all expected a big GC battle, finishing as it did up the Col de Turini. There, Roglic wasn't quite in a class of his own, but he was certainly never in any trouble. He was away for a while with Danny Martinez of the Ineos Grenadiers, before being caught by Simon Yates and Nairo Quintana, but Roglic easily outsprinted all of them to the finish line. And so it looked to be a foregone conclusion going into the 8th and final stage around Nice. But we should know better than that, shouldn't we? Because this is Paris-Nice and this is Primoz Roglic. All was going to plan for him and his team until the final climb of the day. Simon Yates attacked and Roglic was unable to follow. Still, there was no reason to panic until the gap started ticking up. At the point at which it exceeded 25 seconds, we suddenly had a race on our hands. Step forward, Wout van Aert. Such was the strength of Van Aert yesterday that he outclimbed everybody except for Yates. Even Roglic was struggling to hold his teammate's wheel at times on the Col d'Ez, but manage it he did, and over the top, Van Aert started eating into the lead of Yates. Now, the Bike Exchange rider did incredibly well to keep that Jumbo-Visma duo at bay on the downhill run into the finish, but they did all that they needed to exercise the demons of 12 months ago. Roglic took the overall win, Yates the stage and second on GC, Martinez and Adam Yates third and fourth respectively. And I think I might have uncovered the secret behind Jumbo-Visma's success. After stage 5, Roglic described Dennis as half human, half motor, and after stage 8, he described Van Aert as half man, half motor. He's right though. It was an incredible performance by both of them, and it would have been a much harder task to win without their help at crucial moments. Now, Paris-Nice is always a very hard and attritional race, but this year it was ridiculous. Only 59 riders made it to the finish of the race of the 154 who started. Some of those pulled out through crashes, many through illness, but one through an incident that should never have happened. So on his way back from signing on stage 7, Kevin Genietz was hit by a sponsor billboard used in the background of TV interviews after it was blown over in the wind. Not good, not acceptable. Get well soon, Kevin. Over to Italy now and the race of the two seas, Tirreno-Adriatico. Filippo Ganna was back to doing what he does best, winning the opening time trial, whilst Tim Merlier and Caleb Ewan shared the spoils in the opening 2 sprint stages. The climbing started on stage 4, and so too did the dominance of Tadej Pogacar. Or at least it resumed after his last race. He chased down every single attack on the final climb to Terni. The last of those attacks came from Victor Lafay, whom Pogacar countered, sprinted to the line with seconds to spare over everybody else. The following day, Warren Barguil got himself into the day's breakaway and duly made the most of the opportunity, taking his first World Tour level win in almost 5 years. It might have turned out differently though, had it not been for this.
They've missed the corner. Evenepoel in hot. The others go down the street. They've all missed it.
Oh,
it wasn't barried off, and they weren't being shown the way. They've all missed the corner. Brambilla on the radio.
Evenepoel, Vingegaard and Pogacar failed to take the right-hander after going on the attack in the finale of Stage 5. In the end, it didn't change the outcome of the GC, but we'll never know if it changed the outcome of that stage. It was the following day that defined, or I guess confirmed, the general classification to ascents of the brutally steep Monte Carpegna, 6Ks long at an average gradient of 10%. A selection was made the first time up, and on the second, Landa split the group, only for Pogacar to do this.
Here he goes, look at this.
He came straight off the back of Mikel Landa out of the saddle going as hard as he could. He's left it late though, hasn't he? We've only got 4Ks to go to the top of the climb.
That's why I was wondering. I was thinking, this is a bit late.
Another monstrous performance from Pogacar. In the 4 kilometres between his attack and the top of the climb, he put almost a minute and a half into some of the best climbers in the world. This is the Strava leaderboard for the final 4.7 Ks of the climb. Proof, if it were needed, that Pogacar was head and shoulders above everybody. Now, he didn't include his power data with that upload, but Thymen Allensman did, and he averaged 6.1 watts per kilo for the 19 minutes and 5 seconds that it took him. And he was 2 minutes and 15 seconds slower than Pogacar. And whilst we're on some numbers, I just wanted to read out a few Pogacar stats for you because I find them mind-blowing. Since turning pro at the beginning of 2019, Pogacar has started 16 stage races. He's won 10 of them, and only once has he been outside the top 10. He now has 37 wins to his name, which puts him equal with Alaphilippe, 7 years his senior, and over 75% of Pogacar's wins are at World Tour level. But one of the things I find most astonishing is that he has competed in 36 UCI-sanctioned stage races through juniors, under-23s and pros, and not once has he failed to finish. Not once in all of that time, over 200 days of stage racing, has he crashed out or got too sick to continue. Now, with all the bad luck that can present itself in pro cycling, that is nothing short of incredible. And it's not just those stats or his legs that are a scary thing for his opponents right now, but also the fact that the team around him is now so strong as well. Soler looks to have been a great addition to the team and was the last man with Pogacar on all of the climbing days of Tirreno. Vingegaard may not have been able to match Pogacar, but he did do enough to finish second on both the stage and the general classification. In third, it was Mikel Landa. As ever, he had a pretty dismal time trial on the opening day, but he bounced back when he got to his favourite terrain. And Bahrain Victorious actually had 3 riders in the top 9 on the GC. Richie Porte ended up in 4th place overall after losing contact with Landa and Vingegaard on the final descent of Stage 6. And that was a real shame because he was close to making history by finishing on the podium of all the major week-long stage races. Unfortunately though, it wasn't quite to be. On the final stage, Phil Bauhaus emerged from a chaotic finale to take the win. Let's head over to the touchscreen actually to see how he did that. Just before we look at how Bauhaus won though, I'm going to hone in on a couple of riders who didn't quite get it right for a couple of different reasons. The first of those, Mark Cavendish. His team Quickstep Alpha Vinyl a little bit out of sorts on this running towards the finish line. It was Israel Premier Tech who really got their lead out right, but nevertheless, Cavendish finds himself in a decent position, around 9th as that shot starts. However, he moves to the right to try and find some clean air to launch his sprint, and just as he does so, you'll see Fiorelli just in front of him moving to the right, and we've also got one of the lead-out riders moving back at the same time. Cavendish is forced to brake, and if you brake in a sprint like that, you've got no chance of the victory. Very frustrated he was about it too, as you can imagine. The other rider I'm going to have a look at is Arnaud Démare. He's on the wheel of Mark Cavendish, but he actually chooses the other side of the road. Now, it's pretty narrow there in terms of where the riders are in proximity to the barriers, but he's just hoping here that it opens up for him. And it almost does. It sways to the right-hand side of the road. He darts up the left. Giacomo Nizzolo is in the slipstream here of Alexander Kristoff. Démare, as you can see, is hoping that he's going to be able to shoot up the inside of Alexander Kristoff here. It's a very narrow gap though, and unfortunately for him, Kristoff doesn't move right at all. Démare is forced to brake, stop pedalling, and that's the stage win over for him. Right back to the start then, let's have a look at Phil Bauhaus. Now he is just here on the wheel of Arnaud Démare and Mark Cavendish, but he actually goes completely out of shot. He's forced to brake or feather the brakes just a couple of times and it looks like it's all over for him. However, in a few moments' time you'll see him come back into shot on the wheel of Arnaud Démare, who he follows until the crucial moment. That comes here. Now look, he's also thinking to himself, I've got no room to go. Caden Groves on his right-hand side, Arnaud Démare just in front of him. But thankfully for Phil Bauhaus, eventually he finds space that goes right across here. Here we go then. Slight feathering of the brakes again. Takes a while for that gap to open up, but he goes round the back of Moschetti and still has the punch at this point to get to the line just in front of Giacomo Nizzolo. Really small margins as always in the world of sprinting, but trying to find gaps like that at that speed must be terrifying. Up to the Netherlands now and the Ronde van Drenthe, which marked round 2 of the Women's World Tour. A tough old race this one, 156 kilometres with multiple cobblestone sectors in the first half and 4 climbs up the vam-berg in the second. An attritional race saw the peloton gradually whittled down, still further in fact, when Lorena Wiebes and Lotte Kopecky both succumbed to punctures inside the last 25 kilometres. With the help of their teammates, both riders were able to rejoin the front group before the finish though, and at the finish it was Chloe Hosking who was on lead-out duties for her teammate Elisa Balsamo, but by the time the world champion kicked for the line, Wiebes had already started her sprint and nobody was able to get on terms with her. A second win in the space of 4 days for the Dutch woman, with Balsamo in second and Kopecky third. And the Belgian champion still leads the overall standings in the Women's World Tour, with the next round coming up in Italy on Sunday. In the men's, a late attack inside 3Ks to go from a small group paid dividends for Total Energies' Dries van Gestel, who took his first win in almost 5 years and only his second as a pro rider. Barnabas Piak was second and the ever-present Hugo Hofstetter was third. This week on GCN Plus, we turn our attention from stage racing to those one-day races. The biggest of them all comes on Saturday. It's the first official monument of the season, La Classicissima, Milano-San Remo. Now, like last year, the race is live from start to finish, and since we've got the return of the breakaway pre- and post-race show, that means a very early start for us. 9:30 a.m. CET, 8:30 a.m. GMT. Adam Blythe and I will be joining Orla here in the studio to build up to and analyse the race, whilst Robbie McEwen will join Carlton Kirby, Rob Hatch and I on commentary. We will have our big preview out for you tomorrow, all being well. That race is available in all GCN Plus territories except New Zealand, so we're very much looking forward to having most of you with us on Saturday. Before that, we have a triple header on Wednesday. The women's Knockera course kicks it off, the first time ever that race has had live coverage. It's followed by the men's race over a similar course with the cobblestones and climbs of Flanders. But also that day, we have Milano-Torino, the oldest bike race in the world. But it's going to be interesting to see how many riders choose to have one more race in their legs ahead of San Remo on Saturday. Peter Sagan is on the provisional start list, but as yet, very few teams have confirmed who they're going to have on the start. On Thursday, we've got a really interesting race. It's the Grand Prix d'Hénin. Now, if you're not a hardcore racing fan, you might not even have heard of it, but we have some big names taking part this year. Primoz Roglic, Jonas Vingegaard and Adam Yates amongst them. It's almost completely flat, so the reason they're racing is because it includes some of the cobbled sectors of northern France that will feature on the Roubaix stage of the Tour de France later this year. So make sure you don't miss that one, whether you're live or on demand. It's available in all territories. On Friday, we're back in Belgium for the Bredene Coxede Classic. The day after, it's San Remo. And then on Sunday, it's the third round of the Women's Tour, the Trofeo Alfredo Binder, won last year by Elisa Longo Borghini. So a busy week once again, and if you're yet to subscribe to GCN Plus, now might be a rather good time to do it, because you do not want to miss this Saturday. In other news, UAE Team Emirates now top the table of wins by World Tour teams by some margin. Courtesy of 2 stage wins and a GC for Pogacar, plus that stage for McNulty, they are now up to 18. That's 50% more than Quick-Step Alpha Vinyl in second. They are on 12, Lotto Soudal on 9, Ineos on 8, and Jumbo-Visma now up to 7 after a slow start to the season. In terms of individual wins, today Pogacar leads with 7 wins from just 15 days of racing. Jakobsen is second on 6, Quintana third with 4. In the women's, UAE also lead the way with 6 wins. Movistar and Trek Segafredo on 4, SD Works on 3. Individually, there's nothing to separate Marta Bastianelli, Annemiek van Vleuten and Ellen van Dijk, who have already won 3 races apiece so far this year, with Lorena Wiebes on 2. Mathieu van der Poel's recovery from injury seems to be going rather well at the moment. He's been back training for a few weeks, and there are rumours that he will make a competitive return very soon. The Ronde van Vlaanderen's social media accounts announced last week that he would be back to the race that he won 2 years ago, and wouldn't it be great to see him back sooner rather than later? Here's hoping. Egan Bernal may be a lot further away from his racing return, but he is back on his bike. The Colombian's rate of rehabilitation continues to surprise us all, and probably him as well, I would imagine. He posted a picture of himself on his normal road bike on an indoor trainer to social media on Saturday. Absolutely fantastic to see. There is even some speculation that he might be able to make a competitive return at some point in 2022. But first and foremost, I think we'd all just like to see him fully healthy. Right, that is all for this week. Don't forget you can catch our big Milano-Sanremo preview show this week with everything you need to know about Saturday's race. See you soon, but goodbye for now.